You're obviously, very passionate about the Eucharist, the true presence. You've talked about the powerful impact it can have on people's lives. Tell us a little bit about your own journey with the Eucharist. I know Fulton Sheen played a role in that from some of the things I've read, but share with us a little bit about your own personal journey with the Eucharist.
Yeah, so there were many different moments in my life when this mystery of Christ's love for me in the Eucharist became more revealed or unveiled, And it really is often like that with God, like he gradually reveals himself to us, even in the scriptures. And for me, the first encounter was when I was in first grade and I was in my religious education class, and my parish priest came into my classroom and he said, "Is Andrew Cousins here?" I said, "Yes, Monsignor," because that's how we referred to him. And he said, "Can you step out in the hallway?" I said, "Yes, Monsignor." Of course, I thought I was in trouble. And then he said, "Do you know your act of contrition?" Then I really thought I was in trouble. And so he said, I said, "Yes, Monsignor." He said, "Well, start saying it. You're going to make your first confession." So I made my first confession in the hallway of the school in first grade, a year ahead of my rest of my classmates. And then he said, "Tell your mom this Sunday you're making your first communion." So my mom was teaching the first communion class to the second graders. And so I went to her and said, "Hey, Monsignor says I'm making my first communion this Sunday." She said, "You tell Monsignor I need at least a week to get you ready, not this Sunday, maybe next." And so, but he had just found out he was retiring from the parish and he wanted me to serve Mass for him before he retired. So he had me make my first communion early. And I remember him training me to serve Mass. And there were two things that really struck me. One was teaching me how to genuflect, the way he explained to me Jesus's presence in the tabernacle and why we genuflect. And I think that was probably the first moment I realized there's a person here. Jesus is really here. And then second, I remember him teaching me about, this might sound simple, but about the corporal, which is it's the sacred linen that we put on the altar where the body and blood of Jesus is consecrated. And I remember him teaching me about how this place is so sacred because this is where the bread and wine become the body and blood of Jesus. And I remember experiencing, even as a young boy, what it was like to be close to the altar there and be close to Jesus as this happened, and desiring to be close to him. And it was really that which was the fruit of my priestly vocation. But it was actually when I was later, both on net and in seminary, when I read Bishop Fulton Sheen's book you mentioned, the book he wrote, "The Priest is Not His Own." And then I discovered that Bishop Fulton Sheen went to my seminary. He went to St. Paul Seminary and in St. Paul, Minnesota. And he had committed in that chapel to make a daily holy hour every day of his priesthood, And I also made that same commitment that this would be a part of my daily life as a priest. And I can honestly say that commitment really has kind of shaped my heart over the years. And that silent time that I spend every day with Jesus and becoming a man of prayer has really shaped my heart. I haven't been able to do it every day, but I have certainly made it a daily commitment, a part of my life. I'd say between that and the Mass, what happens is the Eucharist begins to accompany you and transform you, and you begin to see your life differently. And so, St. John Paul II, again, when he described his ordination, he says, "I was ordained a servant of the Eucharist." Just thought his whole life is like to give Jesus to the world. And that's what we do when we're a servant of the Eucharist, And he also said, "The Eucharist is the secret of my day. It gives meaning to my entire existence." That's really my experience. It's like this daily encounter with Jesus in the Eucharist is what helps me make sense of my mission. And I think that's true for everybody, that as they come to that deeper encounter with Jesus in the Eucharist, it helps them understand their own mission.
That's beautiful. And this idea of making a commitment to spend time in adoration each day is beautiful and powerful.